Welcome back, friends, and happy Tuesday. It's good to see you. This is Abby from Adventurous Advocates, and I'm here at Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. And we are going to do a how-to video on how to rent an ECV or wheelchair at both Islands of Adventure and Universal. So I was reading through the comments and I noticed that a common theme is that a lot of you really like the tips and tricks and travel planning involved with my earlier videos, but some of you really wanted to see some rides and shows and fun. So I had the best idea. On Tuesdays, we're going to do the shorter videos that are all just tips and tricks and how-tos and verses and all those kind of things. And on Thursday, we'll dedicate Thursdays to adventures, riding rides, seeing animals, having adventures. It's going to be a wild ride. So I'm excited to share all that with you and to try out this new format. Let me know if you like it or if you'd like it adjusted. You may be asking yourself, Abby, why did we start in a parking garage? There's not much to see here. But we started here because this is where your journey begins. So you'll be parked in there's two separate parking garages, usually either Spider-Man or the Cat in the Hat. And once you get here, there will not be a way for you to have an ECV or wheelchair directly from your car unless you do a couple of things. They do offer complimentary wheelchairs to get you from your car to the security checkpoint, but somebody from your party will have to go up and get one. Just like today, there are not any by the elevators. Occasionally there are, but it's very rare. So usually someone from your party will have to leave your vehicle, walk all the way down the walkway and go to where the restrooms and the security check are and get a complimentary wheelchair to bring you into that section. And so the other thing that you can do is go in and go to either Islands of Adventure or Universal and preemptively rent a ECV. Now this is not a bad idea because especially during peak times, these ECVs can be gone by 10 o'clock. Their waiting period for the whole day can be filled up by 11. And so it's very common for people to not be able to get any form of ECV, even though they have some with a canopy, some without, even though people are returning them throughout the day. If you don't get one early, there's a very good chance that you will not get one. So someone can come from your party or first thing in the morning, rent you one, and they will hold it for you. And when you get here, then they can go get it for you, roll it all the way out, and then you can ride it into the parks. They do let you bring it in to Citywalk and to the parking garages as long as you return it to the approved wheelchair location by park close. And so that's a kind of nice feature, and it does help. But if you're coming by yourself, you might want to plan ahead because there's not a whole lot of ways to get from your car to the rental area if you don't have help. But also, when you get to the security checkpoint, as we'll see, they don't rent ECVs in Citywalk. They only rent the pushable wheelchairs. And so let me show you, we're gonna take a look at the other thing to keep in mind is that just because you are parked in handicap does not mean that you will be parked close. So it is approximately 2 o'clock and we had to park way at the end of the parking lot. And so this is not a small walk for somebody who needs to rent an ECV or wheelchair. And then once you get past this point, you also have to make it through the moving walkways, through security, and then another 2 set of moving walkways. And so let's see how far this is. It's a pretty good jaunt. It's definitely worth considering whether you need to rent one from a third party and pick it up at a resort. But that is something we can talk about right now, is that Universal and Islands of Adventure do allow third-party rentals here. However, they cannot drop your ECV off at the park. And so you'll have to make arrangements with the third-party provider to drop it off at one of the resorts and then ride your ECV either by the buses or through the walking paths to either Islands of Adventure or Universal. And so that's something to consider as well when you're kind of planning out and working on the logistics for your day, is that this is a pretty good jaunt, and without assistance, you may need to think ahead and consider renting from a third-party provider. Once you get past the moving walkway, you'll notice that in the center security courtyard, there are well-marked signs that say wheelchair rental. On the side I'm on, you will go past the Starbucks and Icebox area, but on the other way you'll go past the gift shop, but you'll need to turn inward and go towards the bathrooms to be able to find the wheelchair and stroller rental. So at this location, so here's the men's and there's the ladies. We have the $15 wheelchair rental with a deposit of $50. If it's cash, it's returned immediately. If it's card, it can take up to 7 to 10 business days, but I've had it returned in as little as 48 hours. They do not do ECV or stroller rentals at this location. Although Citywalk has an amazing set of restaurants, places to shop, and lots to see, including a movie theater, there are no ECV or wheelchair rentals in Citywalk. So once you pass the security center, you will have to go all the way to Islands of Adventure or Universal to rent a wheelchair, ECV, or stroller. So that's something to keep in mind because it's a pretty significant walk. Now that you've made it past 1, 2, 3 really long walkways and a security check, you now have to walk all the way through Citywalk and then turn and go all the way to the theme park inside the gates before you can rent an ECV, wheelchair, or stroller. So this is something to think about when you're planning ahead, and why you also may want to bring someone with you or pre-plan to have arrangements where someone can bring the item to you. At Islands of Adventure, the standard wheelchair will run you $15 per day, the electric convenience vehicle is $65 per day, and the ECV with sun canopy is $85 per day, while strollers are $35 per day. All ECVs have a $50 deposit. So that's something to keep in mind. If you pay cash, you do get that back immediately upon return. But if you pay card, then they let you know that there may be a 7 to 10 day delay in getting your money back. But some banks, including mine, get it back much faster in 3 to 5. If you remember the video we did on attaining a services pass, you came in the entrance and turned right. But when you need a rental of an ECV, stroller, or wheelchair, you're going to turn left. Now, this building is clearly marked as rentals in the tile, but it's so beautiful that it's easy to mistake it just for regular architecture. So I wanted to show you what the outside of the building looked like so that when you saw it, you'd realize this is where you rent the ECV or wheelchair. Now, if you rent from this location, you can return to Universal, but you can also return to this location. Now, when you return it, you're actually going to come over here to this side where you pick it up. So you pay over there, and then they will walk you over here, and you will pick up and drop off at this location that says returns. It's a super easy system. It's very well marked, and it's easy to follow. So if you come during peak times and they are sold out, something to consider is that just because you see people returning an ECV does not mean that ECV is available for rental. Universal's policy is that they have to clean each ECV and they have to appropriately charge it. And so even though there is a waiting list, that waiting list is for ones that have been fully recharged and fully sanitized. And so even then, when someone returns an ECV, they go to the waiting list before they service people who are currently standing there. And so that is another reason during peak times that you want to make sure you get your reservation in early and pay. Like I said, you do not have to pick it up when you pay. You can have someone come pay first thing in the morning, and then when you're ready to pick it up, then you can have someone come get it for you, let you roll it right into the parks. No big deal, easy peasy. You see this sign where the adventure begins, that means you have gone too far. So as I'm going to show you what to do as I turn around, notice that over here is the guest services area where you can get your passes, but over here is the ECV rentals. So just so you know, if you hit that bridge, then you have missed the ECV rentals and gone a little bit too far. So the ECV rentals are over there by the park exit, right as you're entering the park. A few things to keep in mind when you're renting an ECV is that you will need to show your driver's license, and they will not keep this, but they will need to see it. They also will ask you for a valid phone number and your address, and you will have to sign a contract. Now, this contract is nothing scary whatsoever. It just says that you're not going to go popping wheelies, driving off curbs, damage the ECV in any way, or try to go bogging through super deep water or do anything that would harm or intentionally damage the ECV. Now, they understand that there is rain. These things are water resistant, though they do ask you to cover it up if it starts raining. They they do understand normal wear and tear, and I've never once had a problem with renting an ECV and having them say I owed anything or anything like that. They're mainly looking for people who go and intentionally try to damage or destroy it, or pull stunts, or do things that are unsafe for other guests. The other thing it does say is that you agree to maintain a safe operation of this vehicle. So you can't just decide that you want through a crowd and so you turn it up as high as it'll go and go bowling. You gotta tone it down a little bit and be a little bit patient. And so that's just all the contract says. It just says that you're gonna operate the vehicle in a safe manner and that you're gonna agree not to do anything crazy on the vehicle. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that in case you do feel weird about signing something or you don't prefer to show your ID. Then I wanted you to know ahead of time that they would ask for those things. A small caveat is that you don't have to have a driver's license. A form of government issued ID is what is required. So if you're an individual who has a identification card or maybe just doesn't qualify for a driver's license but has another form of government ID like a passport, they will also accept those forms of ID. It just has to be government issued. At Universal Studios Orlando, the prices are the same as they are at Island of Adventure. However, the architecture is much more minimal and it's easier to miss. So once you scan in your ticket, you're going to come to the left. It's the opposite of where you get your access pass. And so when you come here, you're going to go get in this line right here. You're going to show them all the documents that you would have to show at the other park, and then you're going to pick up right there. So if you came from Islands of Adventure but want to return at Universal, you will need to come all the way over here to this little hidden spot where you return your wheelchair, ECV, and stroller. And the people here are super sweet. They make it easy. You just show them your receipt if you pay cash and you will get your deposit back, or you just return it and walk away and your deposit will go right to your card. You don't actually need to speak to them again if you paid with a credit card. They will check it in, they will clean it, and it's a very easy process. And everyone at Universal and Islands of Adventure is very accommodating and is just super helpful. To talk about the benefits of renting an ECV from the parks as opposed to renting from a third-party provider. If you rent from the parks and something goes wrong, they give you a phone number you can call, or you can contact a cast member and they will immediately bring you out a replacement at no fee, no charge. It's quick, it's immediate, and they keep their stuff charged, they keep it well maintained. I've never actually had a problem on a Universal ECV. They do regulate them down so they don't go quite as fast as the third-party scooters might, but they are the same system, the knob turn system and the levers for stop and go. And they do have a horn. It does actually have a little bit of an annoying feature of backing up. It beeps. And so that's kind of off-putting if you don't, but they do it to make sure that everybody knows you're backing up and so you don't actually accidentally hit somebody. But it does make you feel a little bit like a semi-truck, and it feels like it makes people stare at you. It's very discomforting sometimes to people who run ECVs. Some people it doesn't bother them, and if that's you, good. But I wanted you to know ahead of time that if you rent one from the park and you back up, it will do that. I personally preferred the ones at the park because the experience that we would have with third-party providers is if it's often they're not maintained, they're not new, especially there's one company in particular that we had to push it all the way out to Citywalk and swap out. It was dying 4 or 5 times throughout the park. Now we've had much better experiences with other third-party rental companies, but it really is, you have to do a lot of research and you have to know which ones are the best. You have to really look into it, where if you come to the park, you know you're safe, you know it's taken care of, and if it's not, they'll sort of swap it out. If you guys would like me to do a video on which third-party ECV companies are actually helpful and which ones I've had a bad experience with, and show you the Google ratings and all those kind of things and get some feedback from people at the parks, then let me know in the comments below and we will do that, okay? I'm happy to do that for you, and I'm happy to look into it. If it's something you guys are interested in, just let me know. So one last thing to think about is after you return your ECV, if you did rent from the park, they will provide you a complimentary wheelchair with a larger pole to go out to your car. The downside is that you will actually have to return that to Citywalk. So if you don't have anybody to help you with that, that will be very difficult. And so that is one thing to think about, is that you may end up needing to walk from where you returned your ECV all the way through Citywalk, all the way back down the moving walkways and to your vehicle. And so that can be a pretty strenuous walk for people with back pain or difficulty walking or on crutches or just various reasons. So I just wanted to bring up that one last point, that although they do offer complimentary wheelchairs, they do have to be returned. Now, I do see a lot of people just turning them in, leaving them by the elevators and things like that, but they warn you that if you do that and someone steals it, they will charge you. And so they don't return, it's one of those things that you're responsible for that wheelchair, and you can't just assume that if you left it there that it was brought back safely, or if it gets hit by a car you could still be liable for it. And so the safe thing is really to return it to Citywalk, and that's what they ask you to do, and that's the safe thing to do. We have had a fantastic time today learning how to rent ECVs and talking about all the issues associated with renting ECVs for pros and cons. If you have any other questions about ECVs rentals, please put it in the comment below. If I ask you nicely, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And until next time, stay adventurous.